to play the games at some. He'd rather have a buffalo take a diarrhea dump in his ear. He'd rather eat the rotten of a roadkill skunk and down it with beer. He's the angriest gamer you've ever heard. He's the angry Nintendo nerd. He's the angry Atari Sega nerd. He's the angry video game nerd.
Remember when everybody was talking about Tracy? 1990, the Warren Beatty film comes out. Everybody went from who's Tracy to whoa, Tracy's the It was like a contemporary film noir, stylish with colorful comic book style visuals and an all-star cast. Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, Madonna. It was alright, but its popularity was short-lived. I think it was just an excuse for the kids to say
You know, Van is in the movie. You think that's enough? Like seriously, when this movie came out, I've never said so much before in my life. Every kid on the block was running around saying My dad said, "Can't you just call him Richard, Tracy?" And I was like, you know, how is short for Richard? That doesn't even make any sense. It's like Bill and William or Jim and James. But at least Bill and Will rhyme and Jim and James both start with a J. But Richard and like nobody ever says. But anyway, I'm going to tell you all about the NES game, and boy, is it an experience. Now, I'm just going to give you my impression of it, and I'm not really going to go all out and like dress up like or anything like that. I already did that for Halloween when I was 10.
I got a rock.
Yeah, I got a rock, just like Charlie Brown. That sums the whole thing up. I was laughing back then, but I'm not laughing now. I was so obsessed with that when the game came out, I was like, oh boy, I gotta play that Tracy on Nintendo. That's gotta be a treat. There's no way I could let that pass. But it was just a big disappointment, like a rock landing in my trick-or-treat bag. It starts in the police department, where you can either hit the streets, look at your notepad, or look at your mugshots. If you look at your notepad, it gives you your first clue right off the bat. There's a fake $20 bill found near Steve the Tramp's flop house. So in order to solve the case, you have to find the other 4 clues. If you go to your mugshots, it'll tell you where you can find all your suspects. Since our only lead is Steve the Tramp, we're gonna go to him. 5th and B is what it tells us. So we hit the streets and we start driving to 5th and B. Our first problem is trying to steer the car. It automatically puts you in the right lane with no freedom to move around. When you come to an intersection, you're never sure which direction to push on your D-pad. The car sort of like snaps onto the other roads. It's the absolute worst overhead driving control I've ever seen in a game. Yeah, worse than Roger Rabbit. Even worse, you take damage when you crash into other cars, and there's snipers on all the roofs. Just little tiny vague shapes that shoot at you, constantly, and by constantly, I mean all the time. There's nothing you can do to avoid them. You can shoot straight ahead, but you can't shoot at an angle. There's no way to point the car at the snipers. There's no enemies on the road, so your firepower has no purpose whatsoever. The navigation is also dreadful. You'd assume that you count the street numbers, then travel down 5th Street till you hit B, but that only gives you the vague whereabouts. Every building looks the same, and it's hard to tell where you're supposed to go. And you think there'd be a map screen? Of course not. Anyway, what's this all about? A fake $20 bill? Couldn't they have come up with anything better than that? So you get to 5th and B, you go inside, and then the game goes to a side-scroller mode. What the is wrong with He looks like he's got a bad suntan. You can use your gun, but it's more amusing to punch the living out of people. Bam! 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 Oh, look at him go, down the steps. He's still going. What the heck? Were they really trying to be serious with this? So you get to Steve the Tramp, whose on-screen character looks nothing like his mugshot. You have the option to interrogate him or arrest him. If you choose to arrest him, you just get scolded by your superior officer and get sent back to the station. But if you interrogate him, he'll give you some information, which basically tells you to go to the 9th and F pier. But once you leave that screen, you better remember 9th and F, because you're not going to be told again, and doesn't write it in the notepad. What kind of detective is that? Stupid banana raincoat wearing. So you go to 9th and F, where you encounter more bad guys. But now your life is starting to diminish, and to make matters worse, you're not allowed to shoot unarmed men. If you shoot somebody who doesn't have a gun, you lose half a star. You switch between the gun and the fists by pushing select, and you have to keep doing it constantly. There's times when you're trying to shoot someone when all of a sudden an unarmed man drops down in your line of fire. That's bullshit! So, it's supposed to be realistic by having a good cop that won't shoot unarmed men. That's fine, but then how about when you punch people, they bounce off the walls? That's pretty realistic. Okay, there's the clue, the first piece of evidence we need. What the is he doing? Get off the rope! Why the would you want to climb on the rope? So then he collects the clue by punching at it, and tells you footprints in puddle of spilled green ink. Footprints on top of a crate hanging from a rope? Sure, whatever. After you leave the pier, you chase a car down, probably the only time the bullets come in handy. And then you interrogate Shoulders, I think, and he tells you where your next clue is, 4th and D. Again, doesn't write it down. He just writes down the clue, which tells us nothing. Shouldn't the clue be in a Ziploc bag or something, and where I'm supposed to go be written on the notepad? Besides, you can't even see the notepad unless you go back to the station. During the gameplay, there's no status screen where you can bring up the clues or anything. Why wouldn't a detective bring the notepad with him? Dumb. When I play a game, all I want is the NES, the TV, and the controller. Also, preferably a couch to sit on. But what I don't want is a pen and paper to write down clues. The snipers got me. Game over? Are you kidding me? Just one life? That's it? And no continues either? No, look at this. Where's my clue? I have to get it again? That's insane.